Clarkson and Yabu are going to completely change the Knicks. Jordan Clarkson's going to hit the Knicks bench like a caffeinated freight train. The guy's not just filling a gap, he's plugging a crater. Last season, the Knicks' second unit averaged just over 21 points per game, which was dead last in the league. Clarkson alone could raise that floor without even breaking a sweat. He's expected to log around 25 to 30 minutes a night as the backup shooting guard, which means the offense won't need a life raft the second the starters sit. Now, Clarkson's biggest value is what he does with the ball in his hands. He drives a lot. Last season, he ranked 10th in the entire league in drives per 48 minutes, clocking in at 22.15. That's not just volume, it's volume with purpose. He's just behind Jalen Brunson in that stat, which tells you he's consistently putting pressure on the defense. And he doesn't just barrel in with blinders on, he passed out of those drives over 37% of the time. That's the same territory as James Harden and Luka. So no, he's not just chucking. In fact, his assist percentage hit a career high last season at 24.6. That's a massive leap in decision making, especially for a guy who built his reputation as a gunner. But yes, speaking of chucking, there's still a little of that left. He gets up 10.4 three-point attempts per 100 possessions. That's a healthy number, especially on a team that struggled to stretch the floor. The issue is the efficiency. Over the past 3 seasons, he's only shot 33% from deep. That's not pretty, but it's not hopeless either. His shot chart says he's got real success from the left corner and above the break. So if they can scheme him into those looks, the numbers could nudge up. Now, he's 33 and dealt with plantar fasciitis last season. That's not a small detail. It definitely limited him, and there's no guarantee his availability will magically improve. But that's exactly why they added Malcolm Brogdon, to stabilize the backcourt and reduce the pressure on Clarkson to play hero every night. Then there's Yabu, who might be the sneakiest signing of the offseason. He's not coming in with fireworks and headline, but the guy is a pure stat machine in all the ways the Knicks need. He's a stretch big, and I mean real stretch. He shot over 50% from the field and 38.1% from 3 last season for Philadelphia. That's not solid for a big man. That's efficient. Full stop. He fits the Morey ball mold perfectly. Almost all his shots come at the rim or behind the arc. Among 52 players who took at least 200 shots in the restricted area and 200 from above the break threes, Yabu ranked 6th in efficiency with 1.31 points per shot attempt. The names ahead of him: Jokic, LeBron. That's the kind of company he's keeping. And it's not just the shooting. He averaged 5.6 rebounds a game, which doesn't scream dominance, but dig deeper in the value pops. He averaged 2.9 box outs per 48 minutes, right on par with Rudy Gobert, and over 37% of his rebounds were contested. That's a guy doing the dirty work, not just collecting freebies. He's built like a fridge at 6'8" and 265 pounds, and he uses that size to cover both forward spots. He can even slide into small ball center without getting pushed around, which opens up wild lineup flexibility for the Knicks. He's not just a stretch four, he's a multi-tool who can hold his own on the boards and won't get roasted on switches. And don't ignore the resume. He's been around winning. He's got a EuroLeague title from 2023 with Real Madrid and a silver medal from the 2024 Olympics with France. That's not fluff. That's a player who's proven he can contribute in pressure moments and not just as a passenger. When you look at how these two slot into the Knicks bench, it's all about fixing what was broken. Last year's second unit was flat out unwatchable at times. No shooting, no spacing, no juice. Now, you've got Clarkson jacking up threes and attacking gaps off the dribble. You've got Yabu pulling bigs out of the paint and drilling corner shots. That changes the geometry of the floor completely. And the numbers back it up. Yabu had a 3-point attempt rate of 49% last season. Clarkson's was 47%. That's high volume floor stretching from 2 bench guys, and that forces defenses to stay honest. You can't just sag and clog the lane. That opens up the paint for slashers, dump-offs, and cuts. The projected bench unit with Brogdon, Clarkson, and Yabu has balance written all over it. Brogdon brings the calm. Clarkson brings the chaos. Yabu spreads the floor. That's a big deal for a team that ran out of gas in the Eastern Conference Finals. They can now stagger their stars and still get buckets. It's also a group that can play multiple styles. Want to go big and physical? Yabu can handle the boards. Want to run? Clarkson and Brogdon can push the pace. Want to slow it down and play half court? They've got spacing and secondary creation. The options are finally there. Clarkson's playmaking jump is underrated in this context. That 24.6 assist percentage isn't window dressing. It means he can handle secondary initiation without hijacking the offense. And if his 3-point percentage even climbs to 35, it becomes a pick your poison scenario for the defense. Same goes for Yabu. If his above-the-break efficiency holds, he's the ideal partner for a high pick and pop with any of the guards. And because he's built like a wall, he can set real screens, not those fake ones that just delay the inevitable switch. Add it all up, and you've got something the Knicks haven't had in a long time. A second unit with actual threats, not let's survive until the starters get back kind of guys, but real contributors who change the look of the game. Clarkson and Yabu don't need to be stars. They just need to be consistent, healthy, and locked in. If that happens, the Knicks bench might go from the worst in the league to one of the most reliable in the East, and all the stats are pointing in that direction. But let's talk about how good they'll be next to the new guys. Let's start with Deuce. Jeremy Clarkson and Deuce McBride are going to bring a statistical balance that the Knicks have badly needed in their backcourt depth. It's not about guessing anymore. This combo actually makes sense on paper. Clarkson, even in his age, 33 season, still posted solid numbers last year with 18.7 points, 7.1 rebounds, and 4.7 assists per game. That's efficient production from a guy who's likely going to start, but if used next to McBride in bench-heavy or staggered units, the data points to a clean fit. Let's start with the scoring mechanics. Clarkson hit 48.5% from the field last season and 34.4% from three. That's not elite, but it's efficient enough to demand attention from defenders. More importantly, his two-point field goal percentage sat at 55.5%. That tells you he's not just floating around the perimeter, he's actually finishing at the rim, using his frame and footwork to punish smaller defenders. He's not just a stretch forward, he's a post threat and a roll man, and that fits perfectly next to McBride's perimeter-oriented style. McBride, by contrast, played 24.9 minutes per game and averaged 9.5 points, 2.5 rebounds, and 2.9 assists. He shot 40.6% from the field and a very solid 36.9% from three. That three-point percentage is the anchor here when Clarkson operates out of the post or in pick-and-roll actions. McBride spacing the floor at almost 37% from deep is a critical component. It forces help defenders to stay honest, and it opens up room for Clarkson to work one-on-one or find cutters. But it's not just shooting. McBride has a low turnover rate and doesn't need the ball in his hands to be effective. That's important when paired with someone like Clarkson, who's going to eat up touches and dictate tempo. The synergy shows up in usage rate. Clarkson posted a usage rate over 27% last season, meaning a large chunk of possessions ended with him shooting, drawing fouls, or turning it over. McBride, on the other hand, had a much lower usage rate, comfortably working off ball and taking open looks within the flow of the offense. That's not redundancy, it's complementary design. McBride's shot profile also fits. Over 50% of his shot attempts were from beyond the arc, and a huge chunk of those came on catch-and-shoot opportunities. That's the kind of profile you want next to a ball-dominant scorer. He's not taking away touches. He's standing ready to capitalize when the defense collapses on Clarkson's drives. McBride is active and effective on the perimeter. He's not locking up the opposing star every night, but he contests well, moves laterally, and navigates screens. Clarkson, not the strongest defender anymore, but the pairing makes sense because McBride's high-energy on-ball pressure can mask some of Clarkson's lateral limitations. Clarkson, who isn't asked to guard primary scorers, can conserve energy and focus on his offensive role. The pairing allows for specialization without sacrificing team balance. And then you look at Clarkson's passing. He averaged 4.7 assists last season, which isn't eye-popping until you consider the context. He's not a point guard. He's not the primary initiator. Yet, he's creating offense consistently, especially in the short roll or from the elbow. That's where his passing shines. He sees cutters, he kicks out accurately, and he doesn't panic under pressure. McBride's movement without the ball opens lanes, and he finished well when set up, especially from the corners. Clarkson's assist-to-turnover ratio was solid, considering his role. He averaged nearly 1.7 assists for every turnover. McBride was even better in that regard, with a ratio over 2-to-1. That's clean guard play. When you combine their assist numbers and limit mistakes, you're getting a pairing that can manage bench units or close quarters without hemorrhaging possessions. Another underrated angle is rebounding. Clarkson averaged 7.1 boards per game, which is wildly productive for his position. That allows McBride to leak out more often in transition. He's not a transition wizard, but he runs hard and can hit trailing threes or slash to the rim. Clarkson grabbing the board and initiating offense gives the Knicks an extra ball handler, removing the burden from McBride to always reset the floor. That balance creates faster decision-making and keeps the tempo unpredictable. Also, Clarkson's pick and pop numbers matter. He shot 34.4% from deep, but the bulk of those came in spot up or pick and pop actions. That percentage jumps when he's left open, which McBride's movement and screens help generate. Clarkson also benefited from spacing created by guards who could shoot or cut intelligently. McBride does both. He set screens as a guard, a rare trait, and moved constantly. That kind of activity frees Clarkson to operate without double teams. McBride's best work came when paired with forwards who could score in multiple ways. He doesn't just want a pick setter, he wants a threat. Clarkson is that threat. He averaged over 18 points per game without ever being the number one option. That means he scores within an offense, not by hijacking it. McBride's timing and rhythm-based game complements that exactly. Neither player needs full control, but both can create when needed. In second units, where organization and spacing break down, this duo makes even more sense. Clarkson provides stability through scoring. McBride provides perimeter defense and off-ball shooting. One presses the gas, the other keeps the car from veering into a dip. It's also about identity. The Knicks bench last season had none. Clarkson brings offense, McBride brings defense. They both bring enough ball handling to stagger minutes without the offense stalling. And with the Knicks' starter-heavy system, that kind of combo lets them rest key players without the score slipping away. One more stat to throw in. McBride shot over 41% on corner threes. Clarkson drew double teams at a 31% rate last season. Do the math. When Clarkson drives or posts up, help has to come. When it does, McBride standing in the corner, shooting a shot he's proven to hit at a high rate. That's clean offense. That's efficiency without complexity. Clarkson's drives also had a gravity effect. Opposing defenses collapsed on him more often than any Knicks bench player last season. That opened up skip passes and swing passes. McBride was one of the few Knicks guards who consistently relocated after passing. That relocation leads to open shots. Clarkson's high basketball IQ and vision turn those opportunities into points. They also match up well in pace. Neither is a run-and-gun lunatic, but both play with tempo. Clarkson's possessions per game were in the middle of the league, and McBride played a similar pace. That consistency means lineups don't need to change the speed dramatically, depending on who's in. That predictability helps coaches manage rotation flow. On defense, McBride's steal rate was 1.7%, meaning he's active in passing lanes. Clarkson's defensive rating was better when paired with active perimeter guards. That's not a coincidence. He needs help. McBride gives it to him. And when they're both in, the numbers show that team defense holds steady, rare for bench-heavy minutes. Even in clutch minutes, there's potential. Clarkson shot 43% in clutch time last season. McBride shot 41% from three in clutch time. Both players didn't fold under pressure. That matters when rotations shrink, and you need bench players who won't panic when the game gets tight. Add it up, and it's a numbers-backed partnership. Clarkson scores. McBride spaces. Clarkson rebounds. McBride defends. Clarkson passes out of the post. McBride cuts and relocates. Clarkson eats possessions. McBride uses them wisely. That kind of duo won't lead the league in highlights, but they'll win second quarters. And for a team chasing a title, that's everything. But what about Hart? Jordan Clarkson and Yabu are going to make Josh Hart's life so much easier, and not in some theoretical vibes-only way. This is pure math. Hart's entire game is built around energy, rebounding, defensive grit, and sneaky secondary playmaking. What he's never been asked to do, or particularly great at doing, is carrying a scoring load. That's exactly where Clarkson and Yabu fit in. Last season, Clarkson led the entire league in total bench points scored since 2020, racking up over 4,500 total points off the pine. That's instant production. No warm-up, no rhythm needed, just check in and score. That takes a massive load off Hart, who thrives when he doesn't have to force shots or initiate every possession. Clarkson's driving stats are ridiculous. He ranked 10th in the league in drives per 48 minutes, with over 22 per game. He's not just dribbling in circles either. Those drives actually generate results. He passed out of those drives 37.8% of the time. That opens the door for Hart to make quick reads, cut to the rim, or crash the offensive glass. And since Hart's best work comes when he's moving without the ball, that drive and kick flow sets him up perfectly. Clarkson's assist percentage hit a career high last season at 24.6. That's not some cute stat. That's a veteran scorer making the adjustment to read the floor better and create for others. Pairing him with Hart, who averaged 5.2 assists per game during the playoffs last season, gives the Knicks a wing tandem off the bench that can actually move the ball, not just isolate and hope. They're not redundant. They balance each other. Clarkson draws attention. Hart finds the open man. And then there's Yabu. His presence stretches the floor in a way that completely clears the paint for Hart. Last season, Yabu shot over 38% from deep and over 50% from the field overall. He takes the vast majority of his shots either at the rim or from three. That's what you want from your stretch big. No wasted mid-range floaters, just high-efficiency areas. His three-point attempt rate is nearly 49%, which forces opposing bigs to step out. That's an open invitation for Hart to cut baseline or crash from the wing. Hart's offensive rebounding becomes even more dangerous in that context. Yabu pulls defenders away from the rim, and Hart averaged over 1.7 offensive boards per game last season, among the best marks for any guard or wing. That rebounding doesn't just create second chances, it turns into kickouts to Clarkson, who attempts over 10 threes per 100 possessions. It's a beautiful loop. Yabu stretches, Hart crashes, Clarkson finishes. Yabu isn't just shooting for fun. Among 52 players who took at least 200 shots in the restricted area and 200 from above the break threes, he ranked 6th in efficiency with 1.31 points per shot attempt. That puts him behind names like Nikola Jokic and LeBron James. So no, this isn't some EuroLeague guy trying to prove himself. He's already done that. He's here to space, score, and make Hart's life easier. Defensively, the trio works because Hart can guard multiple positions and Yabu can slide between the 4 and 5. He's 6'8" and 265 pounds with solid footwork, and he averaged 2.9 box outs per 48 minutes. That's comparable to Rudy Gobert, which is absurd. More importantly, over 37% of his rebounds were contested. That's not stat padding, that's battling. Hart benefits from that physicality because it lets him roam more on defense, take risks, and play to his instincts. Hart's not an isolation scorer. He's a connective piece, and that's what makes his fit with Clarkson and Yabu so clean. Clarkson absorbs the tough shot-making responsibility. Yabu provides spacing and rebounding. Hart fills in the cracks. He cuts when Clarkson draws two defenders. He hits the glass. When Yabu drags the center out, he gets second assists when the ball swings to him with a rotating defense scrambling. His entire value skyrockets in lineups that let him be chaotic in controlled ways. And let's not forget Hart's ability to push in transition. Clarkson rebounded better than expected last season, pulling down over 4 boards a night. That means either guy can grab and go. Hart loves that pace. He's not a pure point guard, but he makes fast decisions on the break. When the ball's popping and shooters like Clarkson and Yabu are trailing, Hart turns into a high-level transition initiator without needing to run the offense in the half-court. The three of them together solve a massive problem the Knicks had last season: spacing. All the starters shot below average from deep. With Clarkson and Yabu launching at high volume and decent efficiency, suddenly Hart has room to breathe. Clarkson's three-point rate was over 47%, and Yabu's was nearly identical. That means nearly half their shots come from deep, and that level of threat reshapes how teams can defend. You can't just pack the paint anymore. Hart shot 35.9% from 3 last season, and that number could tick up with more catch-and-shoot chances. Clarkson's drive and kick game and Yabu's gravity give him better looks than he's had in years. Hart doesn't need to create those shots. He just needs to be ready to hit them. And when the ball swings around, he's one of the few wings in the league who consistently turns those shots into rebounds if they miss. That's what makes him so valuable in chaotic possessions. Even when the shot doesn't fall, Hart's motor keeps the possession alive. Yabu boxes out. Clarkson relocates for a reset. It's a loop that doesn't stop, and it wears teams down. Second units don't usually have 3 high-level contributors who all know how to work without monopolizing the ball. This trio is different. They've all played secondary roles and succeeded in them. The lineup versatility also stands out. You can run Hart at the 3, Clarkson at the 2, Yabu at the 4 or small ball 5. You can slide Hart up to the 4 in small units with both guards on the floor. He's strong enough to handle that role against bench bigs, and he's quick enough to guard wings. The flexibility lets the coaching staff mix and match without punting on defense or losing rebounding. And let's talk rebounding just one more time, because it's crucial. Hart's presence on the glass makes it possible to run 3-guard or stretch-heavy units without giving up on the boards. He averaged over 7 rebounds per game in the playoffs. 7 for a wing. That's elite. That's not just cleaning up misses, it's generating extra possessions in tight games. Clarkson and Yabu both benefit from that. Clarkson doesn't have to waste energy crashing. Yabu can focus on sealing instead of chasing. Hart just handles it. That trust allows them to run back, set the defense, or hang at the perimeter for a quick outlet. if Hart gets the board and goes coast to coast. Statistically, this trio solves multiple pain points from last season. No spacing, no bench scoring, and no consistent second unit identity. Now they've got a scoring leader in Clarkson, a floor spacer, and rebounder in Yabusele, and a Swiss Army knife in Hart, who ties it all together. Even their pace metrics align. Hart and Clarkson both thrive in semi-transition. Yabusele trails and spots up. Clarkson pulls up. Hart crashes. Yabusele finishes as the trailer. It's a clean, three-man synergy that doesn't require a star to make it work. And that's the whole point. These guys fill gaps, they don't need the spotlight, and they do the dirty work while putting up actual numbers. So many bench units fall apart because no one knows their role. This one's clear. Clarkson scores and initiates. Yabusele spaces and screens. Hart rebounds, defends, and connects. All three can pass. All three can score. All three can defend their position. That's rare. That's why the stats matter. They don't just predict production, they predict harmony. You don't need superstars in every slot. Sometimes you need the numbers to show that three pieces just fit, and Clarkson, Yabusele, and Hart fit like they've already run 2 seasons together. Because on paper, the numbers say they could, but then we got Brogdon. Jordan Clarkson and Yabusele are stepping into a Knicks roster that's already got one of the most structured cores in the league, but their fit alongside Malcolm Brogdon in second unit action is going to be a numbers-driven game changer. Brogdon, who won 6th Man of the Year not that long ago, is built to stabilize bench units. He brings low turnover decision-making, off-ball shooting, and defensive positioning that doesn't get talked about enough. Add in Clarkson's scoring punch and Yabusele's stretch forward utility, and you've got a bench trio that could produce efficient, high IQ basketball possessions for 20 straight minutes. Let's start with Clarkson's scoring. Since 2020, he's led the league in total bench points with over 4,500. That's not potential. That's verified contribution. Clarkson's usage rate is always high. He's going to shoot, he's going to drive, and he's going to test defenses off the dribble. But next to Brogdon, who thrives in structured pick and rolls and keeps the ball moving, that actually works better than it might seem. Brogdon doesn't dominate the ball. He's one of the few backup guards who can initiate, then slide into a secondary shooting role without losing impact. That's exactly what Clarkson needs. Clarkson doesn't do well when he has to run the whole offense, but when he can attack off second actions or against mismatches created by Brogdon's reads, the numbers improve. Clarkson passed out of his drives 37.8% of the time last season. That's not tunnel vision, that's calculated playmaking, especially when the defense is already tilted by Brogdon's initial action. And Brogdon's passing feeds right into Clarkson's strength. He knows how to find movement shooters, and Clarkson's taking over 10 threes per 100 possessions. His three-point percentage might hover around 33, but he hits better from the left corner and above the break. Brogdon's assist percentage has historically hovered around 25, and with Yabusele and Clarkson spacing the floor, those reads get easier. Now add Yabusele to the mix. He's not just a floor spacer, he's an analytics darling. Last season, his true shooting percentage was 61.6. That's elite for a bench forward, and his usage rate was only 16.3. He's not demanding shots, he's capitalizing on space. That's the ideal front court partner for Brogdon. You get efficiency without clogging the lane. Yabusele's assist rate was 17.2, which tells you he's not just a finisher. He's part of the ball movement. His turnover rate, just 10.1. That's an efficient decision maker in a front court spot, which opens up options like dribble handoffs with Brogdon or quick touches to reorient the offense when Clarkson gets blitzed. These are the micro possessions that make a second unit function like a first unit. Yabusele's contract says a lot about how the Knicks see him. 2 years, $12 million for a veteran who might start or anchor the bench? That's not a flyer. That's trust. The team's not investing that kind of money into a player they expect to sit. And with the 5th starter spot still unclear, Yabusele could float between starting and bench units depending on matchups. That only makes his synergy with Brogdon and Clarkson more important. And if you look at Brogdon's past success, it's come in lineups that mix creators with efficient role players. He doesn't need another ball-dominant guard. He needs a scorer who can take over stretches, and a forward who knows when to pop, when to cut, and when to pass. Clarkson gives him the first, Yabusele gives him the second and third. Now think about how those three fit together defensively. Brogdon's not flashy, but he's a disciplined defender. He gets through screens, contests well, and rarely makes positioning mistakes. Clarkson is below average on defense, but he's not unplayable, especially when paired with backcourt players who communicate. Yabu's versatility helps here. He's big enough to guard fours, strong enough to hold his own at small ball 5, and quick enough to switch in spurts. You're not building a shutdown unit, but you're also not punting on stops every time the starters sit. And then you've got rebounding. Brogdon rebounds well for his size. Yabu averaged 5.6 rebounds per game last season, and 37.2% of those were contested. That's not empty stats. That's actual resistance on the glass. That frees up Clarkson and Brogdon to leak out or reset the offense with clean outlets. Spacing matters too. Last year's Knicks starters were bad from 3. All 5 were below league average in 3-point rate. Yabu attempted nearly half his shots from deep. Clarkson wasn't far behind. That opens up everything. Brogdon can attack closeouts, Clarkson can hunt shots, and Yabu gives them room to operate. That's how you generate spacing without needing elite shooters. Volume and gravity. Even lineup staggering makes sense now. Say Brunson sits. Brogdon slides in to run the offense. He's flanked by Clarkson, who attacks, and Yabu, who spaces. That's a 3-man group that doesn't fall apart when the clock winds down. Brogdon shot over 38% from deep 2 seasons ago. Clarkson's shot chart gets better when he's not handling every possession. Yabu's catch and shoot game is a consistent release valve. It's not just offense either. Yabu's size lets them switch more in bench-heavy lineups. Brogdon's wingspan allows him to contest above his height. Clarkson isn't going to win Defensive Player of the Year, but in a system that doesn't ask him to cover for others, he's functional. They're not a lockdown trio, but they can tread water and give the starters real rest. The Knicks were 51-31 last season, and they ran out of gas in the Eastern Conference Finals. That's not a coincidence. The bench couldn't hold leads, and every playoff rotation got shorter and tighter. This trio extends that margin. Brogdon gives them control. Clarkson gives them juice. Yabu gives them balance. And when you look at the team's goal, winning a championship, you need exactly this kind of competent, unselfish, statistically solid bench crew. Brogdon's calm demeanor and veteran reads make him a stabilizer. Clarkson's energy and volume scoring make him a wild card. Yabu's blend of shooting, rebounding, and playmaking at low usage wraps it all up with efficiency. They don't need to win games by themselves. They just need to keep things even, or better, extend a lead, while Brunson, Towns, and Bridges sit. And the best part, none of these guys need to be coached into their roles. Brogdon's been here before. Clarkson has played both 6th man and starter. Yabu has won internationally and understands how to play within a system. You're not teaching them how to play. You're letting them plug into a structure that already knows where it's going. The rotation question is still open, but the fact that Yabu's being considered as a starter shows how flexible he is. If he starts, the bench changes, but his minutes next to Brogdon and Clarkson won't disappear. They'll just come in staggered stretches instead of a single-second unit. Either way, the stats say the pairing makes sense. 61.6 true shooting for a bench forward, 17.2 assist percentage, 10.1 turnover rate. That's a profile that plays everywhere. Add in Clarkson's scoring volume and Brogdon's stability, and this is as clean a fit as you can build. From a data perspective, the Knicks are pushing chips in. They've got stars. Now they've got a bench trio that scores efficiently, defends well enough, and doesn't need coaching every second. That's how contenders are built. That's how you avoid gassed starters in the 4th. That's how you win tight playoff games where 5 possessions decide the series. So yeah, the stats don't lie. Brogdon, Clarkson, and Yabu might be the Knicks' most important trio that never starts a game. And that's exactly why they might be the group that helps close one. If you guys enjoyed this, I'll be posting every day. I genuinely appreciate if you could subscribe. Thanks for watching.